points on the lesson. Live in the hills, but I still get a spread. Started with a little, but I still reinvest it. Fear how I feel, then you feel like a blessing. I just want the lesson, I just want protection. I'm up and I'm down, but they sound like progression. Farmer never plans if he waits for perfection. Finger to the down, hold it.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, I got your watch list coming in at February 17, 2022, and oil stocks are going to go crazy tomorrow. Today was a wild day, but if you take a look at the chart, it does not feel like a lot happened, but when we look at the market impact analysis, you could see here today, it was actually one of the bigger Fed minutes moves, and this is even comparing it here to January, which was large. So I'll tell you right now, it was a decently big move. If we didn't have all the Russia tensions and all these updates with oil, then it probably could have been different, but just in general, the market has been very volatile, and after the minutes, it is not like we got exposed to anything new. So I got a lot to talk about today. We're going to cover everything that happened in the markets. We did make a couple of plays. I even have the butterflies to go over with you, and then I have the total rundown, or at least the key takeaways to get from the minutes. So let us not delay and drop your thumbs up on the video if you find it helpful, and big shout out if you've been holding it down, liking the video, watching the stream, sharing it. God bless you and thank you, especially those positive attitudes, baby. But hopefully we see you on the live stream, youtube.com/thestockmarket tomorrow morning. But as far as what you got today, it was an absolute standoff, and the standoff was between the bulls and bears. In between, okay, do we price in anything further, or do we actually start to retreat? Essentially, right when the minutes came out, it was very slow. We did not get a lot of reactions, even a lot of the analysis. People were taking their time because a lot of what we realized, it was pretty much the same as last time, but it felt like an old Western there because little by little, the market kept going back and forth as people were interpreting it. Then the Fed futures went crazy out of nowhere, but ultimately, everybody was kind of like, all right, it really wasn't too different, but there was a nice dovish or bullish tint that or shift that we got from it. So there was that. But the one thing I will definitely tell you right now, do not underestimate the digestion. Today didn't feel too big, but it was actually pretty decent, especially compared to the last couple of days. But now as we get into the end of the week, how we close by Friday, that will be very important. Now, this one's a little bit contrary to what I was believing, and this is now what I'm going to be watching for because we've been seeing it a lot, and the fact that we kind of were hoping for a bigger CPI or Fed minutes move. The fact is there's a lot going on, and really from here on out, we may even watch the Russia headlines taking some more importance. So this is definitely something that I'm going to be watching for, but at the end of the day, I'll go over the key takeaways, but now the countdown is still on. It's like today we kind of got tricked into waiting. Essentially, not much change. The market was already pricing in a lot of aggressive things, and now all we could do is wait because there is no new information. Now, as far as what the minute said, I mean, here are the key takeaways. The first and foremost, and this was the same thing we got from the last Fed minutes, and even we got that reaction there on the CPI a couple of weeks ago, but they did say that the Fed will move faster if inflation keeps going higher, and that's one thing. The real big takeaway is that everything we got today, any accompanying data, chances are that will move it more than anything, but we kind of already knew this. They said they are down to move if inflation speeds up, and then the second big part, and this one was a little bit new, but they did say that inflationary pressures have quote-unquote broadened over the second half of 2021, and now this was the importance, or the important things we talked about yesterday. We were talking about the balance sheet. Well, they did not give any clarity on the mechanics, how they're going to do it. They just said it would happen later, and pretty much they would give more guidance after March, so they didn't really discuss that, and even the 50 basis point rate hike, they actually didn't even mention it. They talked about speeding it up and all of that, but it wasn't really referencing exactly what the market was worried about or some of the worst case scenarios we already priced in. So there was that, and like I said, there was nothing new. It was still as hawkish as last time. So essentially, if the market didn't aggressively price in over this last month and a half leading into it, you probably would have got a way bigger reaction. We would have went down, but fact of the matter is the market was expecting a lot worse, or at the very least equivalent to what we got. So at the end of the day, we did not get anything new that the market has already priced in. And like you're seeing with the market, it kind of had a little bullish tilt to there. But if anything, the bad part about all of this is that if you give this a couple of days, give it to the banks, the weekends and everything else, the bad part could be if the market starts to assume, well, no information and making us wait. Sounds like a complacent Fed and that inflation is running out of control and we got to do something. Hurry up, price it more. So that would be the worry. We'll see what happens. But again, we talked about it today and we even got to see it live. Just watch for the Fed futures to lead the way. You got about 20 trading days now up until the next Fed meeting. A lot could happen in between there. And that's why I'm saying there's a lot on the table for oil. And I'll get into some of the news and we could talk about it. But at the end of the day, a lot of things can move, but the real big moves and confirmation of everything, it is going to occur after the March 16th Fed meeting. So coming into your company news and events, it's very quick today and we'll talk about some of the news related to oil, but let's start with the earnings. Nvidia, they barely beat on a lot of their metrics. It wasn't like it was a bad earnings. They even guided higher, but Wall Street saw it as an underwhelming report. We'll see how it plays out. And again, you did get a lot of good chip makers, so they dropped after hours or stayed kind of neutral. We'll watch how that plays out. Then DoorDash, they absolutely killed it, and it was just literally off of the amount of orders impressing people, even though the guidance was pretty bad. So I was pretty surprised. Again, a lot of people really weren't expecting too much, but to see that many people on the platform, a lot of people got excited for some reason. So there was that. And then Cisco, they beat on everything, and they guided up and announced about a $18 billion buyback. So that is always bullish. And then Fastly and Matterport, both of them dropped, I think, over 10 or 12% each, and it was mainly off of their bad guidance. So there was still a couple of other ones, and there was a lot of earnings today. Not every single one was good. It didn't seem like anything would affect the market. We'll watch what happens with NVIDIA. I don't know if it's bigger than Facebook now, but pretty straightforward, and there should be a lot of other continuations, but there was that. And then coming into oil now, again, we had oil data this morning, and it was actually bad. You would think it would bring the price of oil down, but it went up. It had to do a little bit with the Russia stuff. We hit $95, and then we started dropping towards the end of the day. And then after hours, this was the news right here. Oil fell $3 a barrel after hours, and it was off of a tweet from the Iranian nuclear negotiator, and he said that a deal is near. So that would increase a lot of supply. People are liking it. I mean, it goes both ways depending on where you stand, but we'll see how this one plays out here. But at the end of the day, you are going to get a lot of volatility with oil. It's based off the Russia situation, and now we're going to get some movements here. It's already moved big, so I am definitely going to be watching oil this week. But there was that, and then finally throughout the day, there was a lot of pieces of news. Even NATO said that they see the Russian troops still, but even Zelensky, this added to some of the oil volatility, but it didn't really affect the market as much as you thought today. Everybody was waiting for the minutes, but Zelensky commented, and he said it looks as if the Russians have kept some troops. It looks like they have not really pulled back. So that's what today was about. A lot of people were happy. Oh, Russia's pulling back. Again, that was the good news yesterday. Today was like, wait a minute, it doesn't really seem like that. So we're probably going to hear a lot more of this with the Fed minutes out the way now. Let's watch how the market interplays, especially with the global tensions and then the Fed futures. But like I said, very straightforward. We have a lot of interpretation and digestion in the next few days, but ultimately it is leading us into the next catalyst. So I hope you're ready, but that is pretty much it. So let us get into the plays. So right off the bat, I got 3 different stocks that I'm looking at coming into tomorrow, and I actually like all 3 of these plays. They are all going to be bullish, so we will have to see how some things play out. And even with the first play, we talked about this one today. I do expect the market to make a move around 450, at least if it stays bullish how it is. So that's what I'm going to be expecting, but there is a couple of individual plays. I was going to play the SPY today, but I said, all right, I might just go for some under or outperformers. So First one here, it's going to be Disney. I went for some more time. Again, it still looks good. We talked about this yesterday, so I just got too little time when we first made the play, so I went for a March one, but essentially if it does break out, it did outperform today, but if they could get past that earnings level, we may see a post-earnings continuation. So as far as the play, I decided to go with the Marches. Again, needed more time. I went with the 180, so a little bit further out of the money. Again, Disney isn't really the fastest mover, but I bought 10 of these at like 23 cents, and this was after the Fed meeting when things were looking a little bit good because I was thinking, all right, if we're getting that bullish tilt there, if it holds up, I do think the SPY could go to 450, but instead of going for the SPY, I just went for Disney, and again, that earnings continuation I'm looking for. They had good earnings. They sold off a little bit. Now they're back up to these levels. If it could break out, it could be a good one. So that is the first play. Coming into the second play now, I also made this one today, but Wells Fargo, and you could look at any of the banks, but essentially last minutes, even though the market went down, the banks did very, very good. It was kind of like oil, if you remember. They were saying, okay, high inflation, all of this. Well, that means it's going to benefit the banks a lot, and then you even had good earnings out of the banks. So even though there wasn't a negative reaction this time and people aren't as like double worried about inflation, I still think there could be a positive reaction on financials. So we were a little bit early with the JP Morgans. Those ones are clapped. So I did decide to go grab a play, but this time I was a little bit more risky and I went with the weeklies. So they were cheap. We'll see what happens. But if we do get anything bullish, and now especially with bond yields, all of that, and even rates, you may get a good push here out of any of the financials. So that's the main reason that I'm looking for. I really, really like this play, but the only thing that'll kill it will be the time. So as far as the play, I grabbed the February 25th, next week, $63 calls. I grabbed about 50 of them at around 7 cents each. So the spread was a little bit tight. They went up early in the morning, but then they chilled out. Didn't really do much. So again, if we can start to string together some rally here with the banks, I think this one will be good. So we'll see what happens. But again, for context, this was the last minutes. Remember, they shot up, they chilled out, and then they were able to do really, really good until you got some of the badness with everything else on the second wave. So we'll see what happens, but I really, really like that play. That is the second one. And then finally, Uber. I really think this one is going to be good tomorrow. I don't have any other like new plays, just those old leaps in the shares. So I'm really going to be looking at this tomorrow, but it could really be a sleeper sympathy off of Dash. It did move after hours, but I didn't quite realize it. But again, good DoorDash is good for Uber and their delivery segment, and especially when that wasn't the best part about their earnings this quarter. So definitely going to be watching that. I don't know if I'm going to get next week's or not, but here's something to just remind you. If we do start to stage any sort of rally, you're going to want to have time. So a lot of the April ones, those have the ability to go up, especially if you string together moves. You saw what happened to a couple of the graveyard plays that we have with April. So those are the main plays. As far as everything else, I did do another butterfly play, but I did it on Robinhood. If you go on the stream, I'm sure someone's going to tag it, but we went over it and you could see this trade live. I did it about like 3 minutes before the Fed minutes. And again, I was like, all right, I want to experiment with some of these. And this time I did this butterfly to pretty much meet up with the divergence between TLT and the dollar. So when you do a butterfly trade on Robinhood, it shows up as a 3-option strategy. But before that, I want to jump to the chart here so you can see what I'm talking about. But we've discussed this divergence between bonds and the S&P, and essentially if the S&P was going to match up here with bonds or something like that, it puts the S&P at like the 380 level. So the last butterfly that we did, I think it gave us to like 360 or something, a little bit lower. I said, all right, let me experiment with one of these coming into the Fed minutes. So I decided to do one of the plays that would pretty much give me max profit if this SPY closed at 380. So I did lose 20% on it. I kept it somewhat small, about $300, 89 cents a pop. But thing to remember about this play, it is very low probability, of course, but over time you are going to make money, or essentially I would make more money if this SPY dropped over time by April rather than dropping today. So it lost some of its value, but I encourage you to watch this over time because essentially this is what we did with the play. We buy the 400 puts, we sold double the 380s, and then we buy the 360s for insurance. But to understand what's going on with volatility, it wasn't showing up on here, so I wanted to go down so you could see it a little better. But essentially here are all the transactions. But imagine you own the $400 put. So let's say tomorrow the stock market goes up, all of of the puts are going to lose value. So what happens, you lose money on this play, you gain money on this play since it's a short, and then you lose money on this. But now, what happens if the market comes down 3-4 days later? Essentially, if we come back to this level, the puts closer to the money, they'll come back a little bit. They may not go to the same price, but then the further out the money you are, these ones start to lose more and more. So essentially, if we go up, 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 and then back down, the idea is these puts should gain value. These ones $20 further out the money should not go up as much, and then you could profit off of it. And then this one, you're clapped either way, but you're making more from these two in general. So that is the general idea there. That is the play we made. This one was about like $200-300 max loss, or how much we spent, and then the max gain is about like $6,000 or $7,000, I believe. So we will see what happens. Again, it is low probability, but those were the main plays. As far as everything else, holding the Airbnbs, even our Aprils, if you remember those old ones, they came back. The ones we were down the most on are down now only 25%, but then the ones that we bought on the second set, those are break even. They were up briefly, so I'm still writing out all of those. We even have the other April plays. Those went up another 100%, so keep your eyes on them, though. I think they're still going to be fire. Watch Walmart. Premiums dropped today, and then they kind of held up a little bit, but again, they have their earnings there, so that's going to be a good one. DoorDash, we'll look for any of the post-earnings continuations, but like I said, I'm really going to be watching Uber. I think that one is going to be the sleeper, so watch out for them. Cisco, I really liked it. I think they could hold up a little bit better, but they are a slow mover, but that means there may be some good trades there in the morning on the post-earnings, so watch out for that. Same thing with NVIDIA. We'll see how it plays out, but I mean, some of the post-NVIDIA earnings are a little difficult to play, but if we could catch a trend and catch it earlier, the prices move around a lot, and I think they will. I would definitely watch out for that. And then don't forget about the sympathies. Micron, AMD, even Qualcomm, they didn't do as bad, so I would keep your eye out for some of those. Those could be fire. And then Disney, like we said, Marin, they shot up. I think it was a TikTok integration news, but 30% is no joke. I remember there was a couple of other headlines on this over the last couple of weeks, so watch out for them. Apple, they've been holding up, and I think they really, you can feel some of the big pops and drops that they have when the market's not doing too much, so keep your eye out for them, though. I really, really like them. I may want to make a couple of trades, especially with how they've been holding up. And then Abivai, they continued again, dividend payout and everything. I mean, this is just starting to get a little crazy, but the February contracts are in a weird position. We have that one play, but we are still down on it because it expires on Friday, so we will see what happens, but watch out for them. I might want to double dip. I'm going to definitely keep my eye out, especially if they keep leading. And then XOM, we'll see some of the oil plays. Again, I think oil is going to go crazy. I think it could go up or down. There's just going to be a lot of volatility, so really going to eye these plays, but I don't have my mind made up on anything else. And then finally, TLT, pretty much just watch the divergence. If you did notice during the minutes today, TLT actually led the way, so kind of bounced up with the market. And again, the Fed futures, they were able to recover, but essentially we did do a quick break of the level and then we bounced back up. So usually that could signal a bottom there or a top. We are going to find out, but all we got to do is see what sort of range, divergence, convergence does get set coming into the Fed meeting. So I hope you're ready, but that is your watch list, ladies and gentlemen. Make sure hydrate, healthy, ready to go. Make sure post your watch list. Make sure we see you there in the morning. I need the armor on. I need the helmet shining. I need you to remember, baby, you got to think about it with eternity on the mind. But Nicole loves you. I love you. I'm going to see you in the morning. Let's go.